Hey everybody, welcome back to BobkeTV. It's Tuesday. You know what that means? It's time for the Broom Wagon once again. Tour of Romandie in the news. Tour of Yorkshire. Tour de Bretagne. John Degenkolb back to racing. British cycling in disarray. Lots of controversy there. Simon Yates. TUE controversy as well in the British vernacular. Motos in the news again for the wrong reasons. Musette Musings and Tweet of the Week all coming up and more on this week's edition of the Broom Wagon. Alright, let's get into the Tour of Romandie, the good, the bad, and the hideous. Woo! Nairo Quintana, the diminutive climber from Colombia on the Movistar squad, absolutely stomped the guts out of the best bike racers in the world in the Tour of Romandie, including Chris Froome, Thibaut Pinot, and a lot of the overall contenders for the Tour de France that we will be following in July. Quintana, absolutely spectacular in the mountains, just dominating his competitors in the mountains, having solid time trial as well in the Tour of Romandie, and Quintana coming up with a brilliant overall victory. Also, the good from Romandie for Thibaut Pinot, the FDJ rider, the Frenchman on the French squad, won the time trial. And that's the biggest time trial win of his career. He won his first time trial earlier this spring in Criterium International, and he followed that up with beating the likes of Chris Froome in the time trial. So a great ride by Thibaut Pinot. He's always been a fantastic climber, and the French, in spite of the fact they haven't won the Tour de France since 1985, 31 years, have always produced really good climbers. And the problem for the French has always been those climbers not as capable in the time trial as they need to be competitive in the Tour de France. So if Thibaut Pinot carries that form into the Tour and is racing well against the clock in the Tour de France, the French have their first legitimate chance to win the Tour de France in over 30 years. That's good news for the French, and that's great news for cycling in general. When the host country is engaged in their own event, it's much more exciting, much more resources, much more thrilling, and they are completely committed, which they always have been, let's be honest, about providing a fantastic race. So good luck to Thibaut Pinot. The bad, Froome, yowzer, flat tire, that's understandable, closes to within spitting distance of the peloton and can't quite close that gap down, and winds up losing almost 20 minutes on a single day. Baby. This guy won the Tour de France twice, so it's understandable if you're not 100% ready in May, but we've got to remind ourselves, in 2013, Chris Froome's first win in the Tour de France, he won the Tour of Romandie. In 2015, his second win in the Tour de France, he finished third in the Tour of Romandie. And Froome way down in the overall standings in this year's Tour de France. So I would like everybody to tell me, where do you think Chris Froome is in regards to racing well at the Tour de France? Is he on track? Is he behind? Should he be further forward? Has he changed his tactics? And maybe because the last few days of last year's Tour de France were very tough on Chris Froome, maybe he's trying to make sure that his form holds through the whole tour by starting Tour of Romandie and the Dauphiné a little bit down on his fitness and form, in the hopes that he'll be strong throughout the 3 weeks of the Tour de France. So that's something to consider, but let me know what you think on that. The ugly comes to us from the Red Hook Criterium in Brooklyn, New York. Motorbike stalls, and if you take a look at the video, it's just absolute pandemonium. So motorbike stalls, there's a few unique races, few unique rules in the Red Hook Criterium. Fixed gear, track specific bike, so not a converted road bike with a fixed gear, no brakes, also. No brakes. So if there is an obstacle or if there is a crash, you have to be able to use just the maneuverability of the bicycle. And you can slow down, obviously, by pedaling backwards and hammering the brakes that way. But no actual brakes to slow yourself down. So to be honest, if there is a problem and you have a fixed gear, you're pedaling furiously towards whatever problem that might be, having some brakes would help quite a bit for the safety of the event. Not sanctioned by the UCI. There have been some rumors that the motorbike would not start because the kickstand was down. And so there's a fail-safe mechanism on motorcycles, generally modern ones, whereby the kickstand has to be up to start the motor. So you don't drive away with the kickstand down and high side on the kickstand. So a good fail-safe mechanism for motorcyclists, but horrible for the riders of the Red Hook criterium. And is this a safe event? And if you're going to participate in it, what can you do to protect yourself except hope that there's no problem right in front of you? Even the women's race, just a massive pileup. And the collision with the motorcycle, with about half the field in the Red Hook criterium, that wasn't the only one. There was also other crashes right after the start, massive pileup. So as a business model, I'm not sure. Nighttime criteriums raced in the streets, not on the velodrome, with fixed gear bikes. I mean, the exuberance is insane from the crowd. So that part they have. The party atmosphere, that part they have. The safety of the riders, ooh, man. I mean, of course, a motorcycle doesn't stall in the middle of the race course. It would be a lot safer. We probably wouldn't be talking about this. But I will not be doing any fixed gear criteriums at night for love or money. So count me out of those. And for all the riders injured, let's hope they have a speedy recovery and are back on their fixies or bikes with brakes and gears in good order. Tour of Yorkshire over in England. Yeah. Tommy Voeckler, the master of a million faces. Tom Voeckler wins the final stage and gets the overall victory in the Tour of Yorkshire. So great riding by the Direct Energy Pro. Been in the game for a long time. Huge superstar in France. Many days in the yellow jersey during the Tour. And a great win. Broke away on the Queen stage with Nico Roche. Nico Roche riding for the Sky team. Sky bringing a very strong squad, hoping for overall victory. But Thomas Voeckler, the Frenchman, stealing it right out from underneath the Sky Riders at the last possible moment. So, very clever tactics. Waited till nobody else could get across to Nico Roche, and then went across, and then sat on, and then beat Roche in the sprint. So great ride by Thomas Voeckler to win the Tour of Yorkshire. In the women's event, Kristen Wild of the high-tech squad winning the sprint. Just one day for the women. And Kristen Wild coming out on top. One of the fastest women in all of professional cycling with another big win. So Kristen Wild on good form this year. Watch for her to have a great shot at winning the Cutter Worlds later on this summer. Pancake flat. And Kristen Wild, when the lead out is good, she's perhaps the most formidable sprinter amongst the women. Tour of Britannia, 7-day, under-23 stage race, very prestigious race, one of the biggest stage races for the under-23 riders, won by an American, Adrian Costa. 18 years old. I think he's still eligible to race juniors, or maybe it's his first year in the under-23 category. But racing for the American national team. He's from Bend, Oregon. During the race season, he races for the Action Hagens Berman squad. And first time an American has ever won the Tour of Bretagne. And so a tip of the cap and congratulations to Adrian Costa, a great win in that race. And John Degenkolb, first race in 5 months, involved in a very devastating collision with a motorist during the training camp way back at the start of the year. And a motorist from England driving on the wrong side of the road in Spain just plowed head on into the Giant team as they were coming home from a long training ride, took out a number of riders, and John Degenkolb has just started to race again in the Rund Finanzplatz in Germany. Tony Martin was in the race. The race was won by Alexander Kristoff. John Degenkolb did not finish, but he said it's a good first step in being ready for the Tour de France later this summer, and that's his hope. And so great to see John Degenkolb back racing. Wiped out his Classics campaign. He won Milano-San Remo and Paris-Roubaix last year. So very disappointing for him to miss out on the Spring Classics. But he's back on the bike, racing again, and best of luck to John Degenkolb and the Giant squad that, quite frankly, have been really struggling since that crash. And now that Degenkolb is racing again, let's hope they get back up to the top of the sport where they belong. All right, that's it for the racing. And now it's time for Musette Musings. All right, everybody. Well, it's been a very tough week. You would not want to be in charge of British cycling the last couple weeks. The wheels of justice tend to grind rather slowly, but in this case, they're on the Schnellzug, the express train, rumbling through British cycling. Last week, if you recall, I did on the Broom Wagon request that British cycling respond to the allegations made by Jess Varnish of sexism within the British cycling team, especially the technical director, Shane Sutton. By Wednesday, Shane Sutton had retired after British cycling announced a thorough investigation would be undertaken to address the allegations of Jess Varnish. She was joined in these condemnations by Victoria Pendleton and Nicole Cook, and especially by a 6-time Paralympic gold medalist, Darren Kenny, about some of the discrimination and sexism that's rife in British cycling. Shane Sutton retired, but hopefully that is not the end of the inquiry into this, into whether or not Jess Varnish's accusations are accurate and what should be done. Like I said previously, every single person's birthright is to have equal opportunity to participate and flourish in the sports that they are passionate about and that they participate in, and that they are professionals and top-level amateurs. Whoever is in the Olympic program or a national program, all the athletes have equal rights, equal access, and equal opportunity. Men or women, whatever. That is absolutely essential for sports to really live up to its true potential. And for anybody, even the technical director, Shane Sutton, to stand in the way of that, that cannot be accepted, that cannot be tolerated. And so that he's retired is maybe a step in the right direction. But more importantly, a thorough inquiry is followed through with, and that sexism and discrimination is eliminated, not just in British cycling, but all sports, in all federations, all nations across the world. And so a big congratulations for Jess Varnish for coming forward, having the courage to point out these inequities, these inequalities on behalf of British cycling, so that people coming after her don't have to face that same sexism and discrimination. For Darren Kenny, Nicole Cook, and Victoria Pendleton, all coming forward and speaking out against that, congratulations, hats off, and we'll hope that British cycling follows through and a thorough investigation gets to the bottom of that, and not just the person involved, but if it's a systematic problem, then that's eliminated also. Emma Pooley, also in the news in England, She expressed her disappointment that Team Sky does not sponsor a women's team. She was second in the Giro d'Italia for women, Giro Femminile, second twice in her career, and the Giro Femminina, one of the biggest bike races in the world, perhaps the most prestigious stage race for women in the world. And Emma Pooley discouraged it during her 2 second place finishes. She had very little assistance from British Cycling and Team Sky, and so expressed her disappointment. Peter Kenna, who races for Team Sky, took to Twitter to say these things about Emma Pooley. Emma Pooley, why would Sky put money into the women's Giro that absolutely no one in the UK has absolutely no idea about? Double negatives aside, and also he said this on Twitter: stop being so self-centered and get over it. And you're talking about somebody's career. There's no getting over it. It's your professional career. Every opportunity must be made. Every person must have equal opportunity to do their profession to the highest ability that they can achieve. And you don't get over something like that. That is your job. That is your career. That is your passion. And Emma Pooley is one of the greatest female cyclists alive. Unbelievably successful. And for Peter Kenna to be so dismissive and condescending is really, for me, very disappointing. He deleted those tweets and even canceled his Twitter account. Reinstalled his Twitter account and then came back and said this: I've reread the tweet I deleted and realized I've come across like a total idiot. I'm sorry to anyone I may have offended in how they were worded. That's a little bit different, to be honest. That's a little bit different than saying whether or not you believe Team Sky should field a women's team. They have a very successful men's team, perhaps the most successful in the world. And in my way of thinking, Emma Pooley is absolutely right. Team Sky should sponsor a women's team. Great Britain has some of the best female cyclists on earth currently. And to think that their top professional team does not have a women's team, that's the real issue. That's not something you get over. That's something that has to be addressed and hopefully rectified in the very near future so everybody has equal opportunity. Okay. Sorry if it sounds a little bit harsh, but I feel very strongly about equal opportunity for women in sports. And Emma Pooley, congratulations to you also. Keep it up. Keep on fighting for what's real. All right. The TUE program, Therapeutic Use Program. This is a safeguard that the UCI has in place to protect athletes that may have a genetic affliction like asthma to be able to compete at the highest level. So you are allowed to take what would be otherwise banned substances on the banned substance list to treat something like asthma. Simon Yates of the Orica squad has just run afoul of that. He turned in a positive finding for an asthma medication, but not in the way we imagine a violation of performance-enhancing drugs. Having a positive finding for PEDs is very different from a TUE violation. Apparently, the team doctor of Orica did not fill out the paperwork required, and so Simon Yates, who has an ongoing therapeutic use exemption for asthma medications, theoretically was positive for asthma medicine, which to me is so unfair. It is so ridiculous that Simon Yates would have, and the media does not help in this. The media goes straight to the headline, Simon Yates positive, rather than try to understand what is going on here. And for people that suffer from asthma, there's no reason why they shouldn't have every opportunity to compete at the highest level. And if that means taking what would be a banned substance for a person that does not have asthma, that's a chance the TUE program has to take. The question is, have athletes in the past or currently taken advantage of that? And I would be naive to think that that had not happened, is not happening, and will not continue to happen in the future. But I believe it's better that the athletes that do suffer from afflictions like asthma have a chance to compete at the highest level on a level playing field, rather than be as concerned with the few athletes, hopefully, that would cheat with medicines to treat asthma. It's my belief that you might get a little advantage, but I don't think it would be enough to make a difference in winning and losing professional bike races. And so Simon Yates, this is the good news, not sanctioned, free to race. And so even though the headlines were scintillating and very premature, I think that Simon Yates, because he's not going to have a penalty and will be free to race, the outcome is good. Now, whether or not the UCI needs to clean up the TUE program, make it more specific, eliminate some of the gray area, some of the ambiguity, and really look into it, tighten it down, make sure that it's not being abused, that's up to the UCI. So good luck with that. All right. And now, time for Tweet of the Week. 2 weeks in a row from Chris Froome. Froome Dog taking to Twitter, quote, "I dedicate this combativity award to the people who call my style predictable and mundane." Chris Froome referring to an exceptional stage win in the Tour of Romandie. When Chris Froome attacks in the mountains, everybody chases. TJ Van Garderen was able to catch him. They worked together, and Chris Froome did a great climb to the finish line, holding off the charging peloton led by the Movistar squad and Nairo Quintana. Quintana absolutely flying. Thibaut Pinot chasing Chris Froome, but Froome Dog, he went on the attack a long ways from the finish line. So he's absolutely right. There was nothing mundane or predictable about that. And it was a great stage win. So congratulations to Chris Froome. And it's nice, to be honest with you, it's nice that Chris Froome is paying attention. He takes those criticisms personally. And when he has a chance for vengeance, he takes it. That is your tweet of the week. And that's the Broom Wagon. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for your comments. Keep the subscriptions coming. Thumbs up. And if you like these, the thumbs up help a lot. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook. And until next time, have a very good week of controversy brewing up in the Tour of Romandie. Quintana versus Ilnur Zakarin from the Katusha squad. Nairo Quintana attacked 6 Ks to go from the finish line. It's a vicious acceleration.